Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Paranormal Karen Take 2. So it is December 1st, I believe, if everything is coming out correct. And first of all, join the Patreon and join my email list for sure at karenrontowski.com. Because like I keep saying, I'm not sure what this podcast is doing at the end of the year or what anything is doing. I'm hoping there's big changes in 2024. So join the Patreon, join the podcast, or join the email list so you can see if you like this content. And I have to say, I am, again, you all know I'm taping this in August for the year. This end of the year from August to December is knocked out of the park, including today. The guests have been so good. The podcasts have been so good. Today, my friend, you all know, Alane Hathaway from At the Rising Moon, .com. She is one of my go-to people. I always tell everyone, you come to me, you bring your problems, your whatever, ghost problems, demon problems. If I can't do it, I can filter you out. And I filter out to Alane all the time because she is so great at what she does. This is her thing. And Alane, I'm lucky that you were there today trying to avoid being on vacation. You don't know how to go on vacation either, do you?
No, we were both pretty dedicated to what we do and don't do well with downtime because we have a little bit too much personal energy sometimes. But we were talking about this, in other contexts where it's like work-life balance demands that you learn to have that ability to step back, the ability to reflect, the ability to recharge. And it is part of healthy energy, but my goodness, I think it's partially my genetic makeup and just part of my personality. I'm a goer as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm actually grateful to have this energy, but I have to watch out for burnout is what my I can get really burnt out, and that's my part to watch out for. But you and I are audio text buddies, so we audio messages back and forth rather than write them, which is my favorite to do. And so this morning I got up and I was looking on. I look at all the mediumship programs in schools, and there is a school of mediums in California that looks fantastic. And they have that one thing that you and I are always a little bit, I would say, I don't know what the word is, fascinated, stumped with, where they say there are no demons.
Yeah, that's just kind of outside of the realm in which we dwell. It means that they're not accessing that realm, and that's by choice, and it means it really is not available to them. But like for us, we're the people are like, yeah, no, something is telling me to kill my grandmother in the middle of the night. And I'm really, and so we're like, no, and these people are not schizophrenic. They're otherwise completely sane and questioning their sanity, which is one of the hallmarks of not being insane is when you think you might be, and you're like, I'm fighting this. And there is a spiritual influence or an attachment that is 100% from a darker realm, best referred to as a non-human entity or a demon. But some spirit mediums do not dwell in that land at all. And some others have accidentally tapped into a demonic realm and don't realize it. Because guess what? Demons lie. They just lie.
Yes. And, and this is I don't like that. I always feel like that's from an industry that is built on people who were told they're not seeing what they were seeing, or you're not seeing dead people. That's not real. For an industry to have that as its most damaging background, to do it to other people is really weird, isn't it?
Well, what we have to remember, I agree. I mean, what we have to remember is that there is such a thing as universal truth, but there's also personal truth. Mm-hmm. And when you have an individual soul, a unique individual soul, there may be realms that are accessible to you that are closed off to others, but they're meant to be because it's what you came here to learn about. It's the challenges you're trying to evolve past. It's the lessons that you're trying to learn. And it's not a case of one being superior or inferior. It's just literally as if you're attending attending a different university. So they're at Texas, A&M, and you're all the way over at Northwestern type of thing, where never the twain shall meet. But both have validity and both are actually dealing with what they're meant to be dealing with. And we do all walk different paths. We meet people, sometimes they're going to be, you and I always talk about this, is that we primarily exist in two different timelines that intersect sometimes, because we deal with very different types of things. We take different approaches, but we both are for the right side, meaning that we're all about the compassion and the good and trying to find the light and trying to heal and try to access your highest self. But sometimes we intersect. And what I'm assuming happens is that is a very different path where the people here have either resolved that energy or they have yet to take it on. So it's really not meant to be part of basically their life path, but it's not a universal truth. It's their truth. And we have to learn that there is validity to the kind of the divine journey that everybody takes. And it may encompass things that are very different from my path or from your path, but we can't define somebody else's path. So they're saying there's no demons, and you and I are like, I met the people who almost died from them, and then we did magic, and then they were better. So.
Yes, and the people, they're still I don't know how to. It's almost like I want to say, the huntsman is the biggest spider in the world, and it's in Australia, and I haven't seen it, so it doesn't exist. People are making that up about that spider. Why I choose that spider, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little spider crazy right now, but
maybe because it's the thing that's the size of a sheep, and it really sticks in one's mind.
Yes, exactly. I've had bats in my house, and now I'm talking about giant spiders. Probably not the best idea, but it was something that I feel, believe me, most of you and I know, we talk about cases where people were fooling around and something happened, and now you shouldn't have been doing that, but it's okay. Here, we're fixing it, whatever. But I do know people that are not paranormal, that do not believe in ghosts, that have had something in that they just moved into the wrong house, and it is awful. And they are the ones that I don't want discouraged to say to someone. I had this woman, she was a friend. This was, I think, way before I even met you, Alane. And she had the worst thing I've ever seen in a house. And she still the whole time was saying, I don't believe in this, but why is this happening? So I just think, I don't know, I guess to leap over that frequency, maybe that's lucky. Maybe I wish I was that person. I don't know.
Well, here's what we also have to kind of remember is that it really is possible that we're all wrong, and that what is really true is beyond our understanding. And so what comes to us is the thing that will make the energy of the divine and what we are meant to be make sense to us. And different people will have different answers. And again, that's not the way they're approaching truth, but it doesn't negate it for other people. And honest to goodness, this can happen to people who are entirely centered in the 3D. They're the most earth-based people you've ever met. And they're like, and yet I am terrified of the basement. The dog's terrified of the basement.
Yeah.
There's something down there that moans, groans, and moves stuff. And I don't believe in this stuff. And yet it's happening to me because they moved into a place that had an open portal or had a bad history or attracted disincarnate spirits, which then attracted non-human entities. And what we have to remember is that if you're going to believe, because the first tenet of faith is that there is more to this world than we can see, that what you can see does not mean that is the totality of what is. Meaning more things are possible. From what I know, I completely understand that more things are possible than my personal approach to it, because this is the view that I have been afforded into that particular world. But I don't discount other people's journeys and what's going on with them, because I know that there is a very sophisticated breakdown that is beyond our understanding in this form. And that what's coming to people is meant for them. And sometimes it's to challenge them and to hold them back. And quite frequently, demonic entities and dark entities and non-human entities are trying to hold people back from their spiritual evolution, from joining that land in which you basically close all the doors to the demonic realm.
Yes.
But first you have to deal with them. You're getting
a standing ovation in my head. There's a standing ovation. And also, there's another part to this. Well, there's a couple of parts to this, which is I don't know how you can believe in angels and not believe in demons, because they're actually kind of cut from the same cloth. Demons are fallen angels, correct?
Well, here's what it is. You want to think of the divine as an energy, and it has both light and dark, and it is the energy of creation. And there is dark creation and there is light creation. And towards dark creation comes all of the lesser things that we are, the greed, the wrath, et cetera, et cetera. And in light, there is love, there is compassion, and there is healing. But it is actually the same energy that has taken a different turn and has a different energetic balance. And so, yes, angels and demons are the same things. Angels are the conduits to the divine, and then demons become the conduit to the dark source.
And also, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's a matter of which way that energy turns. And I've met people who've gone very dark with their magic, and they're completely in the dark in the demonic realms. And that's the choice that they made. And that's the realm that is open to them. And then for people like me trying really hard to have the purest intent that we can so that I can heal as much as I can, if you don't reach for something, it has a hard time reaching for you. So I spend, other than caging things up and getting rid of them and detaching them, I really don't go towards dark things at all, because it means that it's harder for them to do wicked forms of magic against me or interfere in my life. If I go towards light source, dark source, I only get to when I'm reaching for something essentially to put it in a darn cage and get it away from someone.
Yes, and I'm writing down all my notes as we speak. There's a couple of other things about that too, which is who knows? Maybe you learn your lesson faster when a demon pops up. I mean, they were originally teachers that walked the earth as teachers, so maybe you're on a fast track, and that comes in to, I guess, quote unquote, help. I'm sure that's not its intention, but it is part of what's going on. And here's a weird thing that you and I, we're going to get into ancestral curses in probably in the next segment, but there is a strangeness now that I can't even explain. I have to tell you my story of what happened the other day. So I just am not, I don't know, maybe I'm on my way out of Utica by the time this gets out, but this is not my place. And whatever is going on, it is a heavy elemental place. And that's not my energy. My energy is not with the elementals. And I won't lie to you. I'm doing the best I can, but I'm pretty miserable here. So the other day I was walking, and a big puff, not a wind, a big puff of wind hit my back. Like I was like, that wind was only on me. Like, wow, well, that was weird. And I turned around and there was nothing there. And I couldn't figure it out. It was like, in the old days when they used to start the fire with the puffer, it's like someone hit me with that. So I went home and I had a healing scheduled with my friend Alyssa. And the first thing she was like, well, something jumped on you, and it's not an attachment, or she was kind of like, I don't know what this is. I believe it's an elemental. And she said, it loves that you're suffering. And she said, it's not attached, but it has these little hooks. And then she was like, just so everybody knows, this is a good story how it ends. And she was like, there's a group of them, and I know things have been moving around my apartment or being shifted and stuff. And she said they think that is so funny. So as she's doing the healing, I light up some frankincense and myrrh, and she's like, they say that stinks. Everyone's making a face. But I think right now, light workers, for lack of a better term, those of us that are in the paranormal, metaphysical, there's a little attack going on. Do you feel that?
100%. We are resolving some, and we will get into this in depth into what it means. But there are a lot of people who are their generational trauma or generational curse breakers. And so what's happening is that you are not simply resolving the karma from your life, you're resolving the karma from your ancestral line. And it means that all of these things are attracted to us. What you want to think of is going for a hike in the woods. And when you go for a hike in the woods, if you're not properly attired, a tick can attach to you. When you go through your walk through the spiritual realm, the thing that tried to get on you, the things that were laughing, those are essentially parasites or ticks or vampires, however you wish to term it, that are attached to and attracted to particular energies that are created by our emotions, like suffering, like anger, like a feeling of deprivation or jealousy. And so they will come along and they will, like you said with the bellows, they will try to inflame it even more so that they have more to feed off of. They're using you as a battery, and they're attracted to the energy source of the energies that you're trying to resolve.
You know, Alane, I have to tell you, I've never had something that I felt that clearly. Like, I know the reactions in my body. This was literally an outside reaction on it was so, I've never felt anything like that. I spun around and looked behind me, and I feel like, whatever you want to say, the veil is getting thinner. Maybe we're getting brighter, but it seems like we're moving into a place that's a little harder to handle. You have to be clearing and incense and all that crap all the time.
I'm always telling people to do spirit attachment removals. And by the way, there's a great free resource on YouTube. I'm going to cover it really quickly. It is Altona, Altona 777. If you feel like you've got any attachments and you do not have the wherewithal nor the means to go to an energy healer, hit up that channel. They have demonic entity removals, they have parasite removals, they have vampire removals, and they all work. I think this poor man who makes them has been through hell trying to make sure that he gets these things out to people, but they actually do work, and I give them to clients all the time because I'm a big proponent of free resources. But it is a time where there's a lot of, because big energies are being resolved, and a historical curse upon the feminine divine. And when you hear the feminine divine or the divine masculine, please don't think man or woman. Mm-hmm. Remember, these are the roles that these particular energies fulfill. So one is about conquering and a couple of other things, and that's the patriarchal energy. And then the matriarchal energy is that of creation, of nurturing, and of healing. And as the matriarchal energy detaches from the patriarchal energy to step into its own power, the things that don't want to let that feminine divine go come in force. So it is almost like you're warding off a battalion of things that are trying to attack your power if you are trying to heal, which is part of the feminine divine. So it does not matter how you identify in your gender. If you are trying to heal, you are reaching for the energy of the feminine divine, and it is absolutely under attack because the darker aspect of the divine masculine is trying to hold on to it. So everything will be flocking towards trying to stop you. You want to think of it as things that are trying to anchor you at a point where they can still utilize your energy and your power. And it's what you have to do is go along and you cut those cords to that anchor day after day after day until it's gone and you've made it to the light source that you've been going for.
You know, what's also really interesting is I also believe the light source is louder. Like, yes, for my Patreon, I did where the card of the day, I did the 7 layers of the aura. In fact, we used that wonderful deck that you sent me, the Sacred Geometry deck.
Yeah. That is a great deck, man. That is a great deck.
It is. And sometimes I just stare at it. It's like optical illusions, and you just stare and you know it's doing something. So somehow I was like, I got to get that picture. And it's one of those things that's so interesting is the real picture of what the 7 layers look like is very hard to find. Someone sent it to me, and I actually went on my, computer and I recreated it for the Patreon so they could take a look at the layers, but it came up so fast. And I have to tell everyone it started to really help with this issue going piece by piece. So the first layer is your body, your second layer is your emotional body, your third layer is your mental body, the fourth is your astral body or trauma or experiences. The fifth is what is the fifth? The 6th is angel body, 7th is wisdom. 5th is purpose and truth. And they always say if you can make all those layers strong, you can't be attacked or, like curses bounce off of you. But what the vision I was given was like, I'm really having a lot of trouble with things right now. And I thought of one thing, and one thing was like, it's sort of like something with the topic we're talking about, where I was like, you don't have to be right. Okay, where did that come from and where is it hitting? And I saw the layers where it hit. Like it was just very interesting. Like, oh, that's on layer 4 and 2. Like, it was very funny. But
Well, you said something very, very important for everyone to remember on a spiritual journey. When you said, I don't have to be right, is remember you have personal truth. And that is individual to each person. And so you will resonate with what is right for you. And if something feels wrong, it is not that it is wrong. It is that it is the wrong answer for you. And that's not the same thing as it being wrong. It means that it's not the thing that will resolve your energy or help you evolve. It's not the right thing for you to reach for. And frequently we will interact with spiritual teachers and with people who are guides and mentors, and we will gain the knowledge that we are meant to, and then we're meant to graduate and move on and get different answers and continue to almost ascend a staircase, getting different answers to resolve the energies that we're moving through. And there are 7 energies in spiritual enlightenment as well. On my podcast, I did an episode with my friend Jacob on that. And it's called the 7 energies for spiritual enlightenment. And they have to do with the emotions that you have to resolve, your lesser aspects that you have to resolve. Like if for the root chakra, it would be something like envy and anxiety and fear, which is one of the things that you're trying to resolve to reach for your true power, for your ability to love, and for your ability to have your confidence in your own journey and know that you are all that you need in order to overcome and in order to conquer.
And I'm going to hold that right there. We're going to take a break and come right back and pick up right where we are. Okay, hold on, folks. MedicallySpeaking.com is a prophetic shop that focuses on your inner alchemical transmutation. And I needed an alchemical transmutation to say alchemical transmutation. See, Toria, you did it. When you're looking for activations to change your aura, wisdom and insight to heal your past, and alchemy to live your highest vibrancy, you will most certainly enjoy the array of offerings you will find at hermeticallyspeaking.com. Created through the teaching of the Hermetics, Toria, who's been on my podcast many times, provides personalized guidance that caters a feast specifically from the higher realms to you. You'll leave each session feeling empowered and loved, having gained ancient knowledge for your soul's nourishment and growth. Believe me, I know. I've worked with Toria and she is terrific. Everything you need is within you. So come remember, activate, and expand your knowing at hermeticallyspeaking.com. Okay. Yes. And I'm going to let you finish that thought. And then I want to go into ancestral curses and what the heck is going on.
Well, the whole thing where you really remember, you really might exhaust the answers that somebody you've been working with has for you. And then you're meant to move on to the next. Meaning that you want to look at your spiritual journey almost like you're traveling down an interstate, and you get off at different exits and you go to the rest stop there and you pick up the map that you need and the resources that you need there. And then you get back on the highway and you go up to the next exit and it's a different town and has a different energy and has different resources available. And that is still part of your journey. Don't think you've ever arrived, meaning this form is very limiting to what we really are. Meaning that our true spiritual self is only something that we can keep reaching towards so that we can join with it when this mortal coil is exhausted. We go towards our spiritual source, and we're always meant to be going and growing and expanding. Often people settle into a practice, and after a few years, they're like, it's not having the same results. I still feel this almost like yearning and need to keep going. This is what you're meant to be. It's not that you're like outgrowing a former version of yourself. It's that you really want to think of yourself almost like a tree, and you're building these rings and going outward and outward and outward as you become stronger and more sturdy and more, you can persevere more and you can endure more. Just don't be afraid to go towards new answers once you have exhausted the energy of the ones they've helped you evolve, they've helped you graduate to that next level. Keep going, keep searching, be a seeker, and you'll always be young.
Yes, and I was hoping there was an end game. No. All right. So now we were talking today. There is something going on with ancestral karma and ancestral curses. Tell me what you were talking about today.
Well, what we were talking about is that how, like, even though, like, we both have a lot of access to different people in our spiritual communities, as we like to term the woo-woo people, that, like, both been feeling this need to withdraw a little bit and really focus on self. And that is about stepping into your true alignment and into your true power. But what happens as you try to do that, as you inhabit your individual and unique soul, is that the generational karma, that which built you, because, like, we've thought, like, I've been on your podcast before, you know me pretty well. Holy crap, my family story is like, but they were also giving me great gifts that are the very things that help my life now be possible. I come from a long line of teachers on my dad's side. I mean, a really long line of teachers. And those were gifts that have helped me in this life. Now, did it also carry all the codependency, all the dysfunction, all the problems with anger and all that? Yes, absolutely. And so I am the person who is resolving that energy. And so I needed to withdraw in order to really get in touch with myself. And that's a normal part of a spiritual journey as well, is feeling like I'm withdrawing from everyone around me so that I truly know me. And it's like, isolation can be very bad for things like anxiety and depression. So if you're sobbing your way through some isolation, you're like, no, reach out. But if you feel really comfortable in the, I'm just spending time with me to really expand me, to really understand me, that is part of resolving generational curses or generational trauma. And if you'll give me a second here, I'm going to explain what a generational curse or generational trauma can look like in a life.
Okay.
So I've had to resolve all forms of codependency, and I did choose to do that. And it is actually wicked levels of hard, because it means that you really do self-isolate quite a bit and examine all of your relationships for whether or not they're serving you at this particular time, and whether or not it's coming from a need-based place. When I look at all of this, goes back generations on both sides. There is a pattern of people spending literally decades alone at the end of their life, but they were miserable, meaning that they were very overly attached to a partner, sometimes a family unit, and that person usually died very tragically. So, like, my grandfathers on both my paternal and my maternal side died under very freaky circumstances that I won't even go into, because it's like, oh my God, were you written by Dickens? It's like one of them got run over by a truck in front of their apartment in Scotland.
Wow.
Like, really running across the street to catch a bus, and a truck hit him. And that was how that poor person, my grandfather, died at 60. And then my grandmother was alone for 40 years. And she just pined for him and pined for him. It's like, that's codependency. You don't know how to be your individual self. Yes, it's sad when we lose people, but it is part of life to have it end. And we are supposed to go on and continue to grow. And so that's part of what I'm resolving. And then on my dad's side, my grandmother literally drank herself to death. So there's a compulsive need towards self-destructive things that I've also been like, I'm being the healthiest version that I can be in everything that I can choose, so that I can resolve that carried forward energy generation after generation. When psychologists talk about generational trauma, they are actually talking about this energetic and emotional injury that is carried forward because people don't know any better, so they don't do any better, so they perpetuate the cycles over and over again. So that's what it looks like from a 3D, like, science type of background. But what it looks like from an energetic or a spiritual one has to do with attachments that it circles back to what we were talking about, attachments that feed off of a particular energy and try to keep you in that. So you're almost enslaved. So if you're a generational curse breaker and you're like, why has my life been so damn hard? It's because you're the warrior. You're the person in your bloodline who was like, it's go time, give me a sword. It's going to suck, but I could do it. And you're that person too. You're the person who's been resolving things as well. And so many people are hearing this. I guarantee you, they're like, oh my God, that explains my life.
Yeah.
And it's because you are the light warrior of your bloodline, trying to step into your full power and to balance out the masculine and the feminine energy in the positive light aspect. Because there is a dark aspect to the maternal energy as well, which can be very controlling and all kinds of things and limiting. It's not that the maternal is wonderful and the paternal is bad. It is that the feminine also has a very wonderful, healing, loving, nurturing side. And so does the masculine. It can be protective. It can be the thing that allows other things to grow. grow. But in its worst incarnation, it is violent and mean and diminishing towards things that love, because they view it as a form of weakness. So what we're ideally trying to do, if you're a person resolving your generational curses, is to bring your feminine divine and your divine masculine into the balance that will allow you to be whole and integrated and in alignment within.
Yes. So now I feel like also when you were describing that, you're really getting the worst of it, aren't you?
Oh God, yeah.
Now,
100%.
for people that can't quite recognize that, like you did with your life, would you have a suggestion for them?
One thing is that please understand that as hard as it is, part of spiritual evolution or spiritual enlightenment is something called ego death, which is stepping outside of yourself, in which you're not just defining what's happening to you by how bad it feels. And like, I am not disputing that. Oh my God, I've met people and I'm never dismissive towards other people's suffering. It sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get really caught in that internal view. But the thing that you need to try and do is examine, like I just outlined, a tiny part of the generational crap I'm dealing with. Step outside of yourself and not make it about your feelings, but like, what patterns can I perceive? What are they trying to teach us here? The mistakes that are made generation after generation are basically, think of them as failed classes in a curriculum, the things that we have not been able to learn. And if you can stop making it about, ow, this hurts so effing much and it's so hard and I'm sad and I feel alone, which I'm not disputing how bad that can be. But the key to the door that will get you out of that land is in saying, all right, well, here's the thing. I've had good times. I've had bad times. If I heal this, I can go back towards good times. So I'm not going to care so much about my suffering. And instead I'm going to say, what lesson have I not learned from this? Mm. What is it trying to teach me? And you know me well enough that I had a terrible habit of liking really bad men. Like,
yeah,
they're not good people.
And that's a big one. It's really weird, but I'm studying animus and anima right now in Freud. Mm-hmm. And I think that it was that masculine generation that produced a lot of those.
Yes, people who have active contempt for women. And the problem with me is that, with a lot of healers and a lot of people who are psychic, is we see the best that a person can be. So you glimpse their divine self and you're like, if I just nurture that, that's who they'll be. It's like, no, partners are not projects. React with them as they are in the here and the now. Don't think you can fix somebody. They need to fix themselves. And if they're not doing it, just flee, get away from them. You'll be so much happier. But it genuinely is about getting lost in almost everything this world values. Will not lead you to a spiritual path, because it's all about power and acquisition in the 3D, because we've made it a world in which money defines everything, and that's going to bring out the worst in everybody. And so it's a very masculine dominated world, but it's not for the lighter aspect of masculinity, the protective and the other aspects of being the good father. Instead, it's about the greed and I will bash you over the head to get what I need type of energy that builds up in the 3D. And people can get very lost in that. And we can't blame men entirely for going towards that,
right? Because
they literally have the softer side of them beaten out of them. They are mocked for having emotions. They are told that, and like men and women come from very disparate places in how we approach falling in love. So women are always at a disadvantage because they're like, I want my soulmate, I want my romance, I want to live my romance story. Nothing wrong with that. But please remember that the people that you want playing the male lead did not get the same story in terms of what they are supposed to be valuing.
Right.
So maybe be your own person first. And then anybody that's with you on your journey, they're earning their place there, instead of like, I'm trying to keep you there because I have no idea how I'm supposed to walk this journey by myself.
And that's good. Yeah, that's good advice for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. All right. So generational curses we covered. And also there is I don't know how to say it, but I'm taking some space from people, a lot of space from people, but also from, I think that right now, this is really weird, but a lot of metaphysical people, or my paranormal friends, I'll call them, we need some space from each other. I almost think like our energies are crossing and causing problems. Like I just all I can tell you is there's this really need to only hear what's going on in my head. Have you been feeling sort of the same thing? Like it's almost like in Ghostbusters, like don't cross the streams.
Oh, 100% I feel that. And then you and I experience that because you and I are both natural leaders and we do great talking to each other on the phone. But if we get together in person, it's like our guides literally pick up sticks and start hitting each other. It's like we're in different branches of the military or something. You're in the Marines and I'm the Air Force and we're both generals. And all of our guides are like, we technically don't get along.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We're on the same side, but we don't get along. We don't do things the same way.
And we did have a podcast that we had to drop because it got testy. Something, not you and me, but other things got testy.
We did great in person. We did great in person. But I had just come from a demonic entity removal that I did not know was a demonic entity removal. And your friend Tommy would be like, you didn't use your questionnaire, did you? And it's like, yeah, no, you got spotted that. I did not aptly prepare for that. I walked into a house clearing only to find it was one of the worst demons I'd ever encountered. And I went to your apartment directly afterward. And of course,
that's where everyone goes. Mad. That's where everyone goes when they have a demon.
I'm so shielded. And it didn't occur to me that right on the other side of my shield is all the crap that was trying to get me from that horrible energy. And you poor woman, like the look on your face, you could see stuff and all kinds of things. I'm like,
the background, the background behind you was moving. Like it morphed. Like there was something wrong with the matrix. And the next day I said, I think I called the animal communicator and Courage said it was like something was going through every drawer and every closet. And he said like the beings were like, hey, you got like my beings, I guess he said, were like, hey, you're a lot of nosy. You're very nosy.
I think what was in your apartment was the thing that had essentially, it was something that was drawn to a woman who was dying and it caused it to be a torturous death. Yeah. So it really was the nastiest demon ever. And I was alone in a house with it. And by the way, nobody prepared me for the fact that they were like, we're terrified to go in there. We're trying to sell this house. Would you go in and like clean out? It sold. Everything was fine. You survived. I survived. But what we found out and what I found out is that I need to make sure I don't interact with another person before I go home and I do a full clearing, because it really did not occur to me that right on the other side of my shield, that it's a big magical shield and it's made out of archangel power, would be the crap that was in that damn house.
Well, you know what too, this is the learning curve. This is how we learn or make new rules or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's always there's the next level of this issue or whatever is next. You know what I mean? But also you and I, well, that wasn't you and I, actually. We taped a podcast when I was here and there was a, that was a whole different story and it was, whatever.
Well, circling back to the spiritual concept of, are you feeling a little distance from people that are even spiritually connected, and why might that be? Because as you step into your true power, you need to be able to access the most direct contact with your highest self. So you need to be your own strongest voice. And since we all, as we step into our true power, have the strongest voice for ourselves, sometimes, even though you've got very powerful friends, it's like we all need to self-isolate a little bit as we learn to balance. As we learn to balance between our higher self's guidance and our earthly self, because we're supposed to exist in a balance. We're supposed to use that higher self power to enact change within the 3D and help each other. We're learning how to strike that balance. And one of the conversations we had via our little audio messages that we sent back and forth is the difference between being nice and being kind.
Yes.
And nice is a social construct that particularly women have been asked to enact to conform to a standard where you're a people pleaser, where you don't question authority, where you're always pleasant, where you don't raise your voice, where you're deferential to everybody else. But it's a societal pressure to not act upon your own impulses and your own power. Whereas kindness comes from a place of treating each person that you encounter as being someone who is carrying their own unique wounds and not judging them, but instead trying to be kind to those who are suffering and offering kindness and compassion. And sometimes that kindness and compassion will be telling them things as directly as you can. Like, this is not a real person I'm referencing, but talking to somebody who's trying to quit smoking and is drinking heavily, with being like, dude, you got to lay off the substances.
Mm-hmm.
You wonder why you're not feeling well, why you're depressed all the time. Alcohol is a depressant. Like,
Mm-hmm.
your nicotine is something that inflames every part of your body. There's a reason you don't feel well. So that is not an actual, it's not an example of a real person that either of us are speaking about, but that is an example of kindness that is a very direct form, because you can say that very kindly.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like, "Ew, that smell." You can be.
That's how that's how the entities on my back talk. Don't talk like those entities.
But niceness is about making sure that you adhere to the power structures within this world so that you're not causing any problems. That's what niceness is. And everything that exists in our world right now, whether it's religion or politics, has become a very power corrupted source.
Yes.
So all of the structures are corrupted by their desire to simply retain more power. It's part of the reason we all have to start working together and working around those known power structures, because they're not getting anything done, because they're arm wrestling over who gets to retain the power.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to recognize that part and be like, we have so many problems. They absolutely have to be solved. Let's stop conforming to what we've been told we're supposed to be and figure out who we're supposed to be. And that is part of a spiritual journey and part of finding your unique individual guidance. And you will have mentors and you will have teachers. You're somebody who helps guide people with your readings, as am I. You can actually people can open doors for you and be like, try walking through there. The answers are on the other side of that. And there will be answers for you.
Yes.
But for honest to goodness, please stop looking towards the things that we already know have an agenda that is more about making money and retaining power and feeling important, and not about helping our world grow and be sustained and work together so that we can thrive and we can grow and things can get better, instead of degrees of worse every time we turn around.
And when we come back, we're going to talk about some witchy power and how strong everything is right now. So hang in. Hey, everybody, how's that spiritual awakening going? I know. Don't worry. Help is here. HighlySpiritualPerson.com is a haven for spiritual misfits and empaths navigating spirituality and mental health. My friend Camille has a plethora of resources on her site to help you on your spiritual journey, even if you're just starting out. It includes individual and collective Reiki sessions, personalized guided meditations, sleep affirmation tracks, and so much more. Camille has so much to offer. She's going to be on my podcast in December. I can't wait to talk to her. Her blog posts and podcast episodes explore spirituality and are great for folks carving out their own path. She has written 2 easy to follow guidebooks, one on breathwork, and the newest book is called Manifestation is Easy, and it features 22 step-by-step manifestation techniques, as well as tips and advice on how to overcome the most common blocks and start changing your reality. Go to highlyspiritualperson.com. I promise you will get lost in how much information is in there. It's one of my favorite rabbit holes. So this is another very interesting thing. And this is, when we talk about the negative, I'm actually kind of in a weird space with karma right now. I'm kind of like, I don't know how much I invest in karma right now. And I don't mean that it's not a thing, but anyways, that's a whole different topic. So whenever I upgrade, and I mean that in a different way, like when
I know what you're talking about.
Right. Or even when, like, we were talking about that time when you were at my house and that wasn't like you did that to me. I feel like that's a contract. Like, you and I are just built to get in trouble. That's why we can't.
Well, that was where the idea that we actually exist in very slightly different timelines that intersect only occasionally, because like we actually do really well with the way that we communicate. We can get together and we can work together on things, but it's occasional. But we mostly are walking on different paths. And when we try and put our 3D energy into the same space, something funky always happens, man.
Can you imagine if we were in high school together and had a Ouija board? Lord, it would be.
Oh, we'd have burned down the school. Oh my God.
We would have been our own movie. Screw that movie, Heathers. You and I would have done it.
There would have been like, there's a werewolf in the cafeteria. I swear I saw a vampire in the guidance counselor's office. And there is a black hole portal in the gym right now.
And we did that. I know. Well, when you go through those hard things, you do get an upgrade.
Yes, you do. You expand as your ability. You want to think of it like strength training.
Yeah.
Your struggles teach you how to be stronger. Now, sometimes we shut down parts of ourselves, and that's not the same thing as strength. Remember, if you're shutting off your emotions in order to be strong, then you're actually being quite weak in one area. And that's not a judgment. It's just a reminder. Every part of you has a function. Every part of you is part of you for a reason. You're never supposed to shut down your heart chakra. You're never supposed to close off parts of yourself and call it strength. Instead, it is an adaptation that will not serve you well when you're talking about your entire emotional body. And you touched a little bit on karma, and I really need people to understand what karma is. It's lessons. Mm-hmm. It's not punishments and rewards. It is the energy of something will keep returning to you at ever increasing levels of pressure until you learn the lesson that you're meant to from it. And that's really what karma is about. It's trying to teach you how to access the best parts of yourself. So karma, the way that we interpret it, does have to do with good karma and bad karma. And karma is just karma, but it contains a different energetic message and lesson for different people. And the more we resist something, it's called repeating it until you repair it. If your life has been difficult, if you have been struggling, stop and examine the areas in which you have been struggling. It shows itself most easily in relationships, where people accidentally, like I said, I kept seeing these guys who would literally be telling me I'm not a very good person. I'm like, oh, yes, you are. I can find that part of you.
Just focus. You'll be fine.
Exactly. And I finally had to accept that it's like, well, even though, because remember, good and bad actually kind of does exist, but it's contained in our choices, and we're all allowed to make our choices. And somebody else can choose an entirely different path. They can choose a path where they are seeking power or money or influence over others, and it has nothing to do with the love and the light. And that means you're not supposed to be on the road with them. They're taking a different journey in a different land, but we have a tendency to be very attracted to our opposite energy. And often the whole twin flame dynamic is your mirror image, which everything is reversed in a mirror.
Yeah.
So it is literally your opposite energy. So if you're very light, you may find yourself, like I did, attracted to people who really struggle with their darkness.
And you and I was saying this to you earlier. If I could just write a movie, I don't know how to sit down and do that, but if I had the patience, I could say. But I feel like there are people, I'm going to use Mel Gibson for this. This is a weird analogy, but people that remember Mel Gibson was a very popular actor, and then he would get drunk and lose his mind and say
very hateful,
very hateful women, Jewish people, which sometimes I think that's, I don't know if that was in him or if that was an influence. I think he would get possessed at that time. And
I think it has to do with an influence, but I also think it has to do with exactly what we're talking about with generational curses and generational trauma, because his father was famously a racist and a misogynist and an anti-Semite. And so he grew up around that, and I think really did, as a human being, try to overcome it. But it's almost tattooed into his DNA. And since alcohol, and he's an alcoholic, is a lower vibrational substance, whenever he drinks, it drags him down into that generational darkness. Yes, so it's really a part of him. But we all have an icky monster inside.
Yep.
All of us do. It's just that most of us choose, because we have the free will, to go towards, and we're always a product of our environment. And he was from a bad environment, and he falls backwards into it when he makes bad choices. And he has an addiction attachment, because the man's an alcoholic, and he'll tell you, I'm an alcoholic.
Yep.
But people who've worked with him, like Jodie Foster,
says he's the nicest man in the world. Yep.
Exactly. But he has an addiction that overtakes his personality, and they call it your personal demon for a reason. It's literally a demonic force in his life. Now, does that mean I'm okay with him?
No.
God, no. I can't watch his movies at all any longer because I'm like, oh my God, you're the worst element ever. Man, go to rehab, please.
Oh, I think he's clean. I think he's clean now. And I actually am very happy that him and the other guy made the child trafficking movie. But my thinking on him is also, see, now I think some people are born to just stand in the light. Maybe those are the people that don't believe in demons. Some people stand in the dark, and then there's you and I that toggle. We go both sides, not like bad people, but we can go in both areas, and that's why we can help people. And
it's called being a crossroads guide. You're a crossroads guide. We both travel back and forth between those two lands because we'll walk into a person's darkness with their light source and be like, come this way if you want to.
I love that. I think he's supposed to be that, and he thinks he's supposed to be standing in all light. That's my theory of him.
I think that he is a very obviously a charismatic person. When he was young, he was one of the most beautiful men ever. I mean, oh my God, Mel Gibson as a young man was like, it's part of the reason that seeing him is so repulsive now is really difficult. It's like, oh, we really can be overtaken by our darkness. And I have not interacted with his stuff in a long time because he's still going towards very patriarchal things with the Catholic Church. And I'm just not down with it.
That's true.
I'm glad that he's sober. But if you ever heard any of the recordings where he was screaming his brains out, it's like, you don't even sound human.
It was also almost a, how do I say it? If you were asking me, if the aliens came and said, can you give us a list of the worst things to say about everyone? Like it was so, it was so everyone. But I do think that I think if there are certain people, this isn't talking about shadow and dark. It's that if you're going to try and stand in that light all the time, and that's not where you're supposed to be, you're going to have these episodes where something like that gets on you, and all of a sudden you're just going to rattle that off because it was so almost down the line awful rehearsed that you go, well, did that really just come out? And by the way, I'm going to say one thing. This happens quite often. If we just go off the air, it means my battery ran out. It wasn't because I've been doing all these podcasts back to back. And I'm like, okay, we got about 10% left, but I think we're going to make it. And if we don't, at therisingmoon.com, that's where you find Alane. And really quick and then we'll just keep going. Tell everybody where to find your all the things you're doing, your podcasts and stuff like that. Tell everybody, and then we'll get back to this topic. Okay, go ahead.
At therisingmoon.com if you want to book me for a tarot reading or a life coaching session. My podcast is Logical Magic Examining Esoterica, and I do paranormal stuff, I do spiritual stuff, but I also do stuff that really tells you how to deal with stuff like CPTSD, PTSD, how to find your hope again. And I do all of those with my friend Jacob. And so those are really good for helping to heal you as well. So check that out if you could. And then of course my YouTube channel is Cronecast at the Rising Moon. But that's really that usually is stuff for healers. Usually I'm doing pick a card things and some guidance for other healers because that's my collective, the healers, the educators. I have a lot of therapists as clients too.
Yeah. And so if we just disappeared, just go to that. And also I just had
that or the void sucked us in.
You know what?
The portal that we opened sucked us in.
I'm betting a lot of people's brains lit up when you said Crossroads Guide. Can you expand on that?
What a crossroads guide is that throughout the course of our life, because we remember we have fateful occurrences in our life, but it's always our choice. So how in the world could that work? It means that the majority of your life is constructed of your choices. And as we know it in the tarot, the minor arcana is the stuff that we choose, and the major arcana are the fateful forces that are influencing our life. And so you maybe have 6, and that is an arbitrary number. It is not to be taken literally. 6 fateful occurrences in your life. And the universe will guide you to the points at which you can choose one way or the other. And crossroads guides are the people who are healers, or they are readers, or they are sometimes spiritual. But they can be reverends. They can be anybody who is in a form of guidance. They're the people that you are drawn to when you are trying to figure out, am I supposed to go in this direction or am I supposed to go in that direction? Because that is your free will at choice. And you're a crossroads guide and I'm a crossroads guide. People will find you and people will find me when they are seeking answers about what are the changes I'm supposed to make?
Mm-hmm.
Not just like, what's the blood I'm going to meet, but like, what am I supposed to do with my life? And it really is about walking into somebody else's land and holding up a lantern for them going, this is the way to go if you want to go more towards the light. And it's not a value judgment. You will get another opportunity if you don't choose it, but it may not be in this lifetime. So remember that part. And it really is about shining a light into the best possible path for your spiritual evolution and for your soul's path.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I had never heard that phrase, but I think that is exactly what I'm trying to say about, I think if somebody is an all light person, it is not safe for them to do that.
I agree with that. You have to have battled your own demons and have to overcome your own darkness. It means that you will not, like you and I both, like you struggle with your temper sometimes, so do I.
Mm-hmm.
And like it has been a lifelong battle. I grew up around very angry people, and so it was something that I have big everything. You have big everything. We have big energies. We do. We're like human batteries or something for other people. We have more energy than other people. And crossroads guides, it's part of the reason we don't coexist well in the same space, because we do the exact same function, but we're pointing into different lands a lot of the time.
It's funny. It is really funny. I think we were made for text friends. I think that we'll be best text friends ever.
Yeah, no, we make really good friends. It's just we like pretty much blow up the energy if we try to inhabit the same 3D space. It's like I'm positive like a power plant died the day that we got together in your apartment.
That's so funny. Now, you are a hermit also, mostly. I'm not, you're more of a hermit than me. And
I'm more of a hermit than hermits. My God.
Yes.
Heidi's grandfather looks social sometimes. Yes.
Yes. And now, but you've also been married and you've been, and
I make friends easily. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And do you think that especially right now, I've never had to protect and cleanse and be aware like ever before. Like right now, it's been upped a notch. Do you feel that way when you go out or you're at the grocery store or somebody starts talking to you and you're like, oh, I can't, I got to go?
100%. It's like everything is intensifying. And that whole thing where we like to withdraw into self, that whole like the hermit energy, is so that we will follow our own guidance more than be guided, because we are both meant to be leaders. And like I said, it's not that it's like one answer is better than the other. It's that every answer that is meant for you will find you, but different people have different answers. And so you and I are the guides for different types of answers.
And sometimes, so just to bring this so that it's not in ego, sometimes I don't even know what I'm talking about during a reading. Right? You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes I'll be talking.
Oh,
right.
100%. 100%.
Or I'll give somebody advice and I totally hear my guides like, did you hear what you just said? Did you hear what you just said to that person? Yes. Write it down.
100%. It is not a case of ego, because it's not really me. It's my divine conduicy. And so like, I'm just a vessel, and I am attached to the Archangel Gabriel, who brings truth and epiphanies about life's purpose and life's paths. And so that's like, is it me? No, I'm just the thing that they made that could conduct that energy. And my personality is the thing that tailors the message for other people.
Stupid motorcycle.
My personality plays into it, and so does yours. But it's my purpose versus my identity, if that makes sense.
Yes, and I love that tarot. This is why I love tarot. Is I feel like it gives you it's like having access to a library of where you can fix your own crap faster, even if you're reading for other people.
Oh, 100%. I have listened to my own readings on YouTube or sometimes on the podcast. And first of all, since I channel half the time, I don't know that I'm studying. And I'll be listening to it and I'm like, A, I did not know I knew that. And B, that's a really good point.
I should listen to myself more.
Where did it come from? And that is exactly it, is that I had to guide myself through a healing journey. And if you're any form of leader, you will need to find your answers within. You will get some information from other people. And what does it mean? It's not about importance. It's about having a collective and being the first person, the pathfinder, because we talked about being a crossroads guides. That's also called being a pathfinder.
Wonderful. Alane, thank you for stopping by. I'm glad we had this morning text conversation, and you just happened to be trying to be on vacation, and I could ruin that for you.
Yeah, that's not, thank God, because if I'm not working, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm trying to relax. But talking to you about this type of stuff is fun. This isn't work. This is part of that journey where, like, I'm sure we've said things that we'll be reflecting on going, yeah, that's right, man, I need to hear that piece of information. And that is actually how guidance works. There's a reason that things teamed up today to make this possible when it wasn't on either of our books. And this is clearly what we were meant to be talking about, you know?
Yes. And yes. And we always have a good, I want to say spirited conversation, but that sounds like fighting. We always have good conversations. That's how I'll put it. So at the Rising Moon, give them the rundown one more time.
At therisingmoon.com if for tarot and life coaching, logical magic, examining esoterica. If you want to hear my version of a podcast, Karen's been on it. We had a good time with that. Great. And then my YouTube channel is Cronecast at the Rising Moon. And I don't post on it a whole bunch, but particularly if you're in a healing profession, I have things like guide messages and a couple of other things that would help you.
I love it. All right. Thank you, Alane. Happy 2023 as we get out of it. Thank God.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. Everybody, I'll see you next week. There will be no podcast on Christmas week, which looks like it's the 22nd. And there will be a year-end predictions podcast. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.